Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Ad Project Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Joe Scheller from Ad Advance, and today I'm joined by John Cavendish. So John, for people who don't know you or who aren't familiar with you and what you do, maybe give us a brief intro.
Sure. Thanks for having me, Joe. And as we were discussing, I am currently based in Asia. So I've been living out here for several years, and our team is actually based between Vietnam and the Philippines. So I live in Vietnam.
Very cool.
I was an Amazon seller back since 2015 for about 4 years. And then since then, I've done services, and me and my team have built service business around the Amazon platform, really.
Very cool. Very cool. So how did you end up getting started in selling? It's always fun for me to hear like the original selling journey. I got started around the same time in 2014. So how did you get going in the Amazon platform?
I wanted to make money on the internet.
Yeah.
I still think it's amazing that we can make money online, to be honest, even now, like 7 years later. But no, I wanted to make money online, and I was listening to podcasts, hence going on podcasts. Sure. And I think I was listening to like Steve Chu's podcast, My Wife Quit Her Job. Sure. And Ryan Moran was on that, who had Freedom Fastlane at the time. And then they were talking about ASM, and I joined ASM. And the rest is history. Started making money online, and then it was like, screw this, I'm going to stop contracting in London and travel the world and operate my Amazon business. That
is awesome. Yeah, it is amazing that, you can kind of live and move everywhere and sell physical products. Like the whole Amazon ecosystem itself is really cool. So walk me through kind of what you're doing now, what your company specializes in, and then we can kind of transition to some different topics that really apply that sellers can take advantage of.
Sure, perfect. So, what we do, it's Seller Candy, hence the candy colors if you're watching this on video. It's our company colors, pink and blue. What we do is we see ourselves as kind of the intersection between experts and assistants. So what we do is we provide like expert, completely outcome-driven assistance to Amazon sellers and basically give them the Seller Central experience they wish they'd always had.
Sure.
So rather than talking Seller Central, they communicate exactly what they want to our team. Our team just does the worst bit, so dealing with seller support. We don't do PPC, we don't do content production, we don't do strategy. We just argue with support and get to the result they want so that, sellers can focus on the good stuff, like the business growing stuff.
That's awesome. So are you typically working with like people, say a brick and mortar brand that wants to get into Amazon, or are you working with more like established sellers that have grown up and are just tired of dealing with seller support? What's the type of people that you're typically working with?
Pretty much exclusively experienced sellers. Sure. We don't handhold. They need to know what outcome they want to get to so that our team can help them to get there. Yeah. So they have to know what they're doing. But resellers, private label sellers, agencies. We work with quite a lot of agencies, several of the aggregators. Like we're the people working in the silence in the back, sure, doing the stuff that nobody else wants to do. Basically,
that is awesome. And as we both know, starting out as sellers too, there's a lot of pain that can be associated with selling on Amazon. And so you're specifically working on some of those pain points, so then you can focus on the rest of your business. Yeah. Yeah.
Our entire business is dealing with that. And, it's a month-to-month agreement. So we have to show value every single month. And we've still got like 80% of the clients we ever worked with in the last 2 years. So that's the idea. We just want to make our customers' lives easier. Sure. And rather than hiring an assistant in the Philippines, or even that people hire us and then give us their assistant in the Philippines as a tool, basically for doing the hard stuff that you don't want to train or trust them to do.
That's awesome. So what do you typically see? Like, what's some major issues that you're running into right now with managing different accounts or working on Seller Central? What's some of the things that continually come up for you?
So for our private label sellers, like, all the same stuff comes up over and over again. It just gets harder and harder. And as you know, like if you've been dealing with seller support recently, like their templates aren't getting any better. They're getting worse, if anything, and harder to get to the actual result you want. So lots of updating content. So actually making sure that back-end changes propagate to the front end through flat files and calling and repeated calling until you get to the result. Listing suspensions, IP complaints, like just the everyday stuff, which is like you worry about when you wake up in the morning and look at your phone and be like, no, it's another one of those.
Sure.
So yeah, anyone who's listening, if you're getting some issues from Seller Central, it's basically that. Like everything is similar.
Sure. So let's talk about like listing suspension. So what's some of the main reasons that you see coming through that Amazon provides for listing suspensions itself? Just so our sellers, when they're listening to this, can know what to look for in their existing listings. Like what's some of the new things that you've seen or any common trends that you've seen lately?
The interesting thing is like Amazon doesn't do a good job, do they, of providing reasons until we investigate and figure out what it is. The big theme over the last year and a half, which is still happening a lot, is pesticides.
Sure.
So people are still getting flagged for pesticides, still getting taken down. We just had a new client. We've had, a client comes on with 5 listings taken down, or a client comes on with 5,000 listings taken down. It's incredible.
Sure.
So pesticides still an issue. Checking for keywords, claims, medical claims. What else has been recent? CBD, supplement products. Amazon's always changing the bot, and then the bot will catch something and take down 5 listings.
Sure.
So we want to fix it as quickly as possible. I can go into the fix if you want, and how you'd fix it.
Yeah. And I guess even before we get into the fix, like say for the pesticides issue, like what's the key things that flagging? Is it a bot that's going through and then it's just finding certain keywords and then just the bot automatically they overreact and then just suspend or take down all those listings until you can prove your innocence? So what's the key things that you see? Is it just like having the wrong keywords in place and you start seeing these trends and then you got to make sure and scrub through that you don't have anything that could even be remotely tied to pesticides?
Yeah, and it's hard to know with pesticides, especially because, words like antibacterial, words in the images, like unboxing,
Sure.
are starting to get picked up by Amazon's bots. They can actually scan the images. Yeah, and you don't necessarily want to remove some of those words if Amazon hasn't flagged your listing yet.
Sure.
Because some of them are really good keywords. You want antibacterial or microbial or some of those stuff. It's good keywords to have.
Sure. Yeah.
It's very annoying.
Yeah. So once you get the listing taken down, like there's typically the back and forth and you get all these automated responses and everything else like that. So kind of walk us through the fix that you take, or what's ways that you can kind of cut through that to try to limit the downtime that you have.
Yeah, so cutting through is the right word. So because as you know, raising cases to support, you just go around in circles and get templates, and it's the super frustrating experience dealing with Amazon support. So especially if it was like a pesticide issue or a keyword issue, and we know that it is, what we do is kind of follow, I think, 3 or 4 steps. We'll count them when I get to the end. I don't know how many it's going to be.
Sure.
So first, you go to Amazon, you create a case, and download the category listing report. So you can't download it by default. You have to open a case to Amazon, get them to enable it. It's enabled for 7 days, and then you can download the category listing report. What that is will be basically a flat file of all of your listings. And because your listing's been suspended, Amazon's locked editing. But they haven't locked editing on the feed file or the flat file. So you've got the flat file, you've got one. You can then go through and edit it and remove anything that you possibly think could have flagged. Okay. So it might mean that you remove almost all your content apart from this is a brown spoon.
Sure.
Or it might be you just remove the real keywords you think it was. Then upload that feed file through the bulk file upload in Amazon. And then in theory it's fixed, but it's not fixed. So then you call Amazon, ask to get put through to the captive team, and quote the feed file upload number.
Okay.
And that's how you rapidly get things fixed. Basically, you might have to call them for 2 hours or a couple of times, but because you're not talking to support, you know the issue, you're going to talk to captive team, and you've uploaded and you've got this tracking number. That's how you get around seller support, basically.
Sure. Okay. I love that.
It makes the difference between a day and a week and a half.
Sure. Okay. That's great. And so what's some other common issues that you see recently that you guys are helping out with? So there's listings getting suspended, but what's other pieces that sellers are constantly running into lately?
Content updates, I think, is, like I said, just a pain. Amazon's locking more and more listings down.
Sure.
And changes just aren't propagating. And it's actually a very similar way with flat files and calling to get listing updates done.
Okay.
A big one for resellers. So quite a few of our clients, as well as having their own brands, also resell. And lots of these listings are getting tagged now for brands for suspected IP violation.
Sure.
Which is a new thing Amazon created 6 months ago. And all it means is they found a trademark brand name in your listing.
Okay.
So they say, oh, we think you're probably plagiarizing these guys. And it's really frustrating because it's a ding on the account.
Sure.
So if that happens, what we have to do is the same thing. You sanitize the listing, you remove all of the names that they think might be plagiarized, and then you refresh again.
Sure.
And you get them removed. I'm trying to think what else we do. We do a lot of different things, but they're the biggest things that we're doing all day, every day.
Sure. Yeah, I remember from like my original seller account that I had. So I was selling these organic chemistry molecular model kits. I'm a chemical engineer by nature, and so they're used for organic chemistry courses in college. And so it got flagged that, it's a chemical. And so they wanted my MSDS for that. And, you know, it took quite a while going back and forth and just showing them, no, this is like, it's little plastic pieces. It's not a chemistry set or anything else like that. And I've just been, it can be so frustrating being on with seller support over and over again and constantly running into these issues. And I mean, from current experience and just talking with many sellers, it seems like it's just getting worse over time, where Amazon, they will constantly react first and then ask questions after. It seems like it's not getting any better. I guess, what's your take on that?
Yeah, I mean, there's a kind of a reason for that, and that's actually where a lot of our staff come from right now. So Amazon's centralizing their seller support in the Philippines and moving from Philippines to Costa Rica and moving things around. And as part of that, they're really locking down their processes so that people don't stray too much outside of the norm. And the norm is their tool called Workflow, where they have to go through their wiki on their side, find the answer and copy and paste it.
Sure.
And they're not allowed to go outside. So we take the guys who hate being like chained up, their staff, and say, come work for us. We'll let you do whatever you want to do. We retrain them in how to communicate.
Sure.
And and that's kind of the reason that we've got some amazing people. Because we take their best trainers because they hate working there now.
Any tricks that you've had for, I mean, just general, like, so we talked through like listing changes or listings that get flagged, but have you found any tricks to just cut through the automated responses that we continually get? Like any responses that work for you, or any tactics that you guys use to be able to like get away from the templates and finally get somebody to actually look into the issue?
Yeah, so that's a real issue. So my number one way is to try and work around, like know a workaround and try and get the thing solved without having to talk to seller support too much.
Sure.
Because some seller support will continuously promise that they're going to have the management team call you back, the leadership team call you back, and they will never call in our experience.
Sure.
Like we've had people sit by the phone for a week while continuously requesting leadership team calls, and they just never call.
Sure.
Hate to say it, Jeff still works. Emailing Jeff works for legit issues. And one thing that really does work, Twitter escalations.
Okay.
So if you're getting really stuck, just as good as Jeff is using Twitter. So reaching out to Amazon support for your specific marketplace, they will get back to you very quickly and send you a link to register your complaint or query through the Amazon platform.
Sure. Okay. Very cool.
So Twitter escalation is a great way of going if you really get stuck.
Interesting. Yeah, that's awesome. For those people who are looking, like, so as a seller, if I'm looking to really expand and I want to start having other people working as part of my team, like people are reaching out to us to manage their advertising. There's a lot of sellers who are previously managing their advertising themselves. For those who are looking to hire a virtual team or find support, what are some key aspects that you think that they should really be looking into, or what's the key things that as a seller that you would be really taking into account as you're trying to build out your virtual team?
So, I mean, two things really, I suppose. I've a lot of lessons of the people I've hired over the last 7 years. I guess one, don't be cheap. If you're hiring real people to work for you, and hire experts. Don't try and train them, unless they're, somebody who's like a good friend and you want to work with them for the rest of your life or for a very long time. The cheaper you hire somebody and the less qualified they are when you hire them, the more that they're going to be so integral to your business that if they leave, you're screwed and you're back to square one.
Sure.
If you hire somebody who has the skill set for a decent salary, they're replaceable relatively quickly.
Sure.
Or you work with someone like Seller Candy. where you get a fractional person basically, so the salary is much lower, and we take care of the hiring and the training and the HR and the month-to-month agreement. So it's that's a plug for me. But yeah,
Sure.
in general, they're my two things. We're actually hiring full-time people.
Okay, sure. What were some painful experiences that you learned as you were going through as a seller?
I was a seller. Many painful experiences. Ad wise, that Amazon changes their algorithm sometimes, and if you're not keeping a good watch of it, $15,000-$20,000 will evaporate in a few days without you watching it.
Sure.
Done that before. Viral products can be very cool and make a lot of money, and then get blown out. So, for example, we did weighted blankets about the time and they went super viral. Sure. And we did like 100K in the first 14 days. And I was like, yeah, sounds like I'm going to get rich. I'm going to make a lot of money. Let's order a lot more weighted blankets. Yeah. And then by the time we get restocked, because we blew through our container in 3 weeks, by the time we got restocked, like the Chinese had come into the market and retail prices were like half, and then they became a third of what we originally sold them at. So that was, we made some money, me and a friend who did a project, but it wasn't like a evergreen business.
Sure.
And QA and QC. Get really good QA and QC done of all your products, because we've had some issues of not amazing. We have some issues of not amazing products in the past.
Sure. Yeah. We saw the same thing too. Like pandemic wise, there were so many products like masks and different things. Like hand sanitizer was just going like crazy for a while, and then there's so many people that are in the market now, and some people are there just jumping in right now, and it's so hard to ride the end of these waves, and it's so hard to be on the first part of the wave too, because staying in stock is critical. You run out of stock though, and now you're trying to forecast for the future. You get all excited, and then at that point, the market is so saturated. And yeah, it's really a challenge on Amazon ecosystem as a whole, and especially right now with all the supply chain issues, just staying in stock and then trying to forecast for the future while competition is constantly changing, advertising is constantly changing, tactics are constantly changing, rules are constantly changing. We are in a very dynamic system.
Yeah, and there's, especially with the stuff for the PPE and stuff like that, there were so many bag holders, like people holding when the times changed, and I've met many of them we do a lot of outreach.
Sure.
So like people who were trading masks when the rules came in that they needed to be approved, and you get stuck with a million masks or something like that, or previous clients who were trading, say, hand sanitizer, and you get stuck with 20, 30,000 units, 5 packs or 10 packs. Yeah. And nobody needs that's enough hand sanitizer for like 10 lifetimes, and you can't sell it. So there's but you got to be very careful when stuff's super hot and super competitive.
Sure, definitely. So right now, since you get to work with a lot of sellers, what do you think are the key challenges like over the next 6 months to a year for sellers, and what are you seeing Amazon like ramping up their efforts on or their focus on?
So, I mean, the big challenge for everyone for the last several months and going forward is storage. Everyone's been getting killed, haven't they? It's crazy. When Amazon didn't tell anyone and made the switch from ASIN limit to account limit,
sure,
it was what a mess. Like, because everyone was overstocked on certain SKUs, they're now stuck with 60% of their inventory storage allowance being on stuff that can't move, and they have to extract or do something, and what a mess. So getting 3PLs, and so 3PLs have been blown up everywhere, haven't they? And then suddenly going out of business. Yeah. So don't get a super cheap 3PL, find a good one. And then think stuff coming up in the next 6 months. I think more of the same. I think it's going to be an amazing Q4. Although I think it's interesting that I was talking to a client about this just before our podcast today, and they were saying like it's not as quick a ramp up as they thought.
Sure.
For previous years, and I think it might be right. Like maybe because now everyone's buying everything online, they're not doing their Christmas shopping till later. Like I know me personally, why would I do Christmas shopping before like the 10th of December now if I can get next day delivery? Does this mean that Amazon's going to ship out everything in December as long as their postage doesn't come down?
For sure, and that's what we constantly see too. Is the initial part of November on Amazon, you get a lot of browsers and a lot of people who are looking for products but waiting for the deals, especially as they're shopping on Amazon. So we're definitely seeing year-over-year growth still. But this year looks a lot different than last year too. So last year we didn't have a lot of stores open and everything too. So you have to be careful, like when you're looking at year-over-year growth. Life looked a lot different than it did right now, and next year is going to look a lot different than it does this year. But yeah, we're seeing the overall same trends, and usually we see conversion rates really start to pick up come in Black Friday, and then after that point, it's off to the races through December until right before Christmas.
Oh, super cool. And as of today, tomorrow is 11/11, Singles Day, biggest shopping day in the world.
Sure.
It's going to be interesting because I'm in Asia. They're pushing that hard. I'm sure they're still probably pushing it as well even in the US now. But didn't Alibaba do like $27 billion last year?
Didn't they set like an e-commerce record last year?
Yeah, something like that in a day. So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I know. It's fun. And that's what's fun too, working with clients throughout the world, and you get to live throughout the world. All these different, we focus on U.S. trends a decent amount, but there's different shopping days that are going on in Mexico right now, and then you have Singles Day in Asia, and lots of other stuff to definitely keep a track of as you go. So John, it's been awesome to have you on the podcast. For people who are looking to find more about you or Cellar Candy, where should they go?
They can just go to cellarcandy.com, spelled as it sounds. Check it out. We've got some really cool video testimonials and a menu of services there, which has a list of absolutely everything we do. So you go into the menu of services, there's a pink button where you can just look at absolutely everything we do. Book a call with someone on our team or drop me an email, just john@cellarcandy.com. I'm pretty available.
Sounds great. Sweet. Yeah. Well, John, thanks for your insights. Awesome to talk to you, and thanks for staying up late to talk to us on the podcast today.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks for having me. It's been pretty cool.
Thanks.